As he was drowning, a huge whale swam at him. Next second, he was up in a slimy belly, wondering where he was. From all of the noise, he figured out he got swallowed by a whale. But to understand how he got swallowed alive by a whale, we must first go back to the beginning of his story. Picture the nation of Israel. Hundreds of years before Jesus was born, the country was experiencing a golden age. Wealth flowed into the capital. The borders stretched farther than ever before, and the people slept soundly in their beds. The man who had predicted all this peace and prosperity was a prophet named Jonah. When Jonah spoke, the king listened. He was fiercely proud of his country, and he believed with all his heart that God favored Israel above anyone else in the world. But hundreds of miles away, a dark shadow was creeping across the map: the Assyrian Empire. Their capital city was Nineveh, and the very name made people shudder. The Assyrians weren't just soldiers, they were monsters. When they conquered a city, they wanted everyone to watch. They dragged captives away with hooks in their noses. They tore families apart for sport. To a proud Israelite like Jonah, Nineveh was the darkest, most evil place on the planet. It was a violent beast waiting in the shadows to devour God's people. Then, the voice of God broke through Jonah's comfortable life. "Go to the great city of Nineveh," God commanded. "Preach against it, because I have seen their wickedness." God didn't tell Jonah to take an army. He told him to walk straight into the belly of the beast with nothing but a message. But Jonah didn't run away because he was scared of the dark. He ran because he knew exactly how God worked. Jonah knew that if he warned Nineveh, the people there might actually feel sorry for their crimes. And if they felt sorry, the God of Israel, who is endlessly kind and quick to forgive, might just let them live. Jonah could not stomach that. He wanted the beast to burn. So he packed his bags and ran. He went down to the seaport of Joppa, bought a ticket on a heavy wooden cargo ship, and set sail for Tarshish. Tarshish was the very edge of the known map, in the exact opposite direction of Nineveh. Jonah wanted to sail off the edge of the world, far away from God's voice, leaving Nineveh to die in its own filth. He climbed down into the dark bottom of the ship, curled up on the wooden floorboards, and fell fast asleep. His conscience was perfectly clear, but God hurled a violent wind at the sea. The ocean roared, waves crashed over the deck, tossing the massive ship around like a bath toy. The sailors, men who had spent their entire lives fighting the ocean, were absolutely terrified. To keep from sinking, they started throwing heavy boxes and cargo into the foaming water. Every man screamed out prayers to whatever God he thought might listen. Down below, the prophet of the one true God was still snoring. The captain rushed down the stairs, grabbed Jonah, and shook him awake. "How can you sleep?" he screamed over the thunder. "Get up! Pray to your God! Maybe he will notice us before we all drown!" The sailors knew this was no ordinary weather. Someone on board had angered the heavens. They cast lots, rolling stones to see who was cursed, and the stones pointed straight at Jonah. The men cornered him. Rain lashed at their faces, and the deck heaved beneath their feet. "Tell us," they demanded. "Who brought this curse on us? What is your job? Where are you from?" Jonah stood balancing on the shaking wood and told the cold truth.
"I am Jonah.
I am a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." The men froze in sheer panic. Jonah had already bragged that he was running from his God. "What have you done?" they shrieked. "What do we have to do to you to make the sea calm down?" Jonah's answer was ice cold. "Pick me up and throw me into the water. Then the sea will stop. I know this storm is my fault." Jonah was so bitter that he preferred to drown in the freezing ocean, rather than see his enemies saved. But the sailors, men who didn't even know God, had more heart than the prophet. They refused to kill him. They grabbed their oars and fought the ocean, rowing furiously to reach the shore. But the sea only grew wilder, fighting back until their muscles burned and gave out. Defeated, the sailors dropped their oars. They looked up into the pouring rain and prayed to a god they had just met. "Please, Lord," they begged, "don't let us die for taking this man's life." Then they grabbed Jonah by his arms and legs, hoisted him over the railing, and threw him into the black, churning water. The instant Jonah hit the waves, the storm died. The wind vanished. The water turned to glass. The sailors collapsed on the deck in absolute awe. They had just witnessed the terrifying power of the real God. Right there on the wet wood, they promised their lives to him. The sailors found salvation, while the stubborn prophet sank like a stone. Jonah plunged into the icy depths. Water rushed into his lungs. Seaweed wrapped around his throat like a rope. He sank deeper and deeper into total, crushing blackness. He was dying, but God wasn't finished with him. God sent a monster of the deep. A massive fish glided through the dark water, opened its cavernous mouth and swallowed Jonah whole. For 3 days and 3 nights, Jonah sat inside the suffocating stomach of the fish. It was pitch black, dripping with acid, and smelled of rotting sea life. And that awful, terrifying dark was exactly what it took to break Jonah's pride. The runaway prophet finally prayed. He didn't make excuses anymore. He didn't argue. He just confessed how far he had fallen. He talked about the ocean crushing him, feeling locked away from the world forever. And then, at rock bottom, he looked up. Those who chase fake gods lose the love that could save them, Jonah prayed in the dark. But I will sing to you. I will keep my promise. Salvation comes from the Lord. He finally surrendered. God heard that muffled voice coming from the belly of the beast, deep beneath the waves. God spoke to the fish, and it swam to the shore, violently vomiting Jonah out onto the dry, sun-baked sand. Jonah lay there, gasping for air, smelling like the bottom of the ocean. Then, the voice of God came to him a second time. "Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh. Give them the message I tell you." This time Jonah got up. He walked for hundreds of miles, crossing the scorching desert, until he stood looking up at the towering, terrifying gates of Nineveh. The city was a sprawling giant, so massive it took 3 days just to walk across it. Jonah marched 1 full day right into the belly of the enemy capital.
Jonah marched 1 full day right into the belly of the enemy capital.
And he certainly didn't tell them God loved them. He delivered the shortest, most bitter speech in history.
And he certainly didn't tell them
in his own language. It was exactly 5 words long. 40 more days, and Nineveh will be completely destroyed. That was it. He dropped the bomb, turned his back, and walked away. But then, the impossible happened. The people of Nineveh listened. They didn't just listen, they believed. From the wealthiest nobles to the poorest street sweepers, a wave of panic and sorrow washed over the city. People stopped eating. They ripped off their fine clothes and dressed in rough, scratchy sackcloth to show their deep grief. The news reached the king of Nineveh, the most ruthless, powerful warlord on earth. When he heard Jonah's words, the king stood up. He stripped off his royal robes, covered himself in sackcloth, and sat down in the dirt. He issued a desperate command to the entire empire. "No man or beast will eat or drink. Everyone must cry out to God. Everyone must drop their weapons and turn from their violence. Who knows? Maybe God will pity us and hold back his anger so we don't burn." God looked down and saw an entire city of killers dropping their swords and begging for mercy. And because their change was real, God's heart softened. He canceled the destruction. The greatest turnaround in human history had just happened. A savage empire fell to its knees and was saved. This should have been Jonah's greatest victory. He should have been cheering in the streets. Instead, his blood boiled. To Jonah, this was a total catastrophe. God had just pardoned the monsters who wanted to destroy Jonah's homeland. Jonah stomped out of the city, his face red with rage, and screamed at the sky. "I knew it!" he roared. "Isn't this exactly what I said back home? This is why I ran away to Tarshish. I knew you were too kind. I knew you were slow to anger and dripping with love. I knew you'd rather forgive than punish." Jonah wasn't mad because God was unfair. He was furious because God was too good. He couldn't stomach a God who loved the bad guys. "Just kill me now, Lord," Jonah spat. "I'd rather be dead than live in a world where Nineveh gets saved." During the storm, Jonah wanted to die to avoid preaching. Now, he wanted to die because his preaching actually worked. God whispered a single sharp question into Jonah's rage. "Do you really have the right to be this angry?" Jonah ignored him. He stormed off, built a flimsy little shelter out of twigs just east of the city, and sat in the dirt. He crossed his arms and glared at Nineveh, secretly hoping God would change his mind. As Jonah sat baking in the brutal desert sun, God did something surprisingly gentle. He caused a leafy green vine to sprout from the dirt right behind Jonah. It grew miraculously fast, spreading broad, thick leaves over Jonah's head. For the first time in the entire story, Jonah smiled. He was thrilled about this little plant. But at dawn the next day, God sent a tiny worm. The worm chewed through the stem of the plant until it withered and died. The beautiful green leaves turned brown and crumbled away. When the sun rose higher, God sent a scorching, fiery wind from the east. The heat blasted Jonah in the face, and the sun beat down on his unprotected head until he felt dizzy and sick. "It would be better for me to just die," he groaned. God spoke one last time. "Do you have a right to be so furiously angry over a dead plant?" "Yes, I do," Jonah screamed back. "I am angry enough to die." Then God laid out the absolute truth. "Look at yourself," God said. "You are breaking your heart over a weed. You didn't plant it. You didn't water it. It grew in a single night and died in a single night. Yet you love it so much. If you can care that deeply about a mindless plant, shouldn't I care about the great city of Nineveh? There are 120,000 people in that city who are so lost, they don't even know their right hand from their left. Not to mention all the innocent animals. Shouldn't I have pity on them?" And that is exactly where the story cuts to black. There is no neat ending. We never hear Jonah's answer. We don't know if he broke down in tears and apologized, or if he stayed furious and trudged back to Israel with a bitter, frozen heart. This ancient story isn't really about a guy getting swallowed by a sea monster. It is a story about a man's prejudice colliding with a God whose love refuses to stay inside borders.
These videos take many hours to make. If you could, please like and subscribe. Also, we want to know which countries our viewers are watching this video from. Please comment the country you are watching from. Thank you. Until the next video.